Hi, everybody. This is Mrs. Moore. Welcome to Hinduism and Buddhism. Today, we're going to take a look at two of the world's most ancient religions, and we're going to try to figure out what their main beliefs are. This is all leading us towards creating a compare and contrast essay, and that's going to be due on Friday. So let me take myself off the screen for a second and let's start talking about Hinduism and Buddhism. You have a chart. It should be in your LMS. You can print that out at any time and then come back and start this over again because we're going to be talking about these beliefs, and you're going to record what you see onto your chart. Now, I'm going to give you kind of a Sparks note heads up on what you need to put down on your chart and what you don't. So please be listening for that. You can stop this at any time in order to reverse it and go back and get more information. So the first thing on background information on Hinduism, you'll notice that first column of your chart is on Hinduism. We're going to go through that first column and then finish it and then go through the next column on Buddhism. Background information for Hinduism is number one, it's a polytheistic religion. When we talk about this religion, we've got cultural diffusion happening here because we have the religion of the ancient Indus River Valley civilization blending with newcomers called the Aryans. As these two people groups combine their ideas, they come up with this idea called Hinduism. So there's no one single founder. It's based on cultural diffusion. When we talk about sacred texts, there are several sacred texts. We have a sacred text in Christianity called the Bible. They have several different texts. One is the Vedas. These are 4 different books. One of them is the history of Hinduism. Their gods are listed in there. There are also prayers and hymns and incantations. Now, while this was written between 1500 BCE and 500 BCE, these ancient prayers and hymns and histories were first oral histories and then finally written down into what is now the completed form, which was finally put together in 500 BCE. The second group of sacred texts is called the Upanishads. And in the Upanishads, they're just clarifying some of the things that confused earlier people when they were reading the Vedas. Kind of like when we look at the 10 Commandments and we ask, what does it mean to honor your mother and father? And then people give their opinions on what that means. That's what the Upanishads are. They're opinions of holy men and priests about what the Vedas and certain pieces of the Vedas mean. When we talk about the key beliefs of Hinduism, I want you to write down 1, 2, 3, and 4 because there are 4 main beliefs. The first belief is in reincarnation. And reincarnation is just that after death, a soul is reborn into another form. And so if you die, your soul, which they believe lives forever, will go into the body of a newborn and start a new life. And that's reincarnation, this cycle of being born, of living, dying, being born, living, and dying. So it's a cycle where you could go through 1,000 different lives with reincarnation. Dharma, all you need to write down for Dharma is to obey what your caste dictates. What do I mean by that? To obey what your caste dictates. We're going to learn in a second that there are several different classes in Hinduism, and your job is to have good dharma, which means to behave in the way that your group expects you to behave, to do everything perfectly based on whatever the class tells you to do. The third main idea is called karma. You've heard that term before, and karma means that the actions in this life affect your next life. So, for example, if you were someone who went around interrupting the teacher all the time, in the next life, you would be a teacher who is interrupted all the time by their students. That's karma. What you do in this life affects who you are and what happens to you in the next life. The last of those 4 main ideas is thing called moksha. And that's the ultimate release from this cycle of life and death and reincarnation. The goal of Hinduism is to finally be released from this cycle. They call that event when you are finally released as moksha. Okay, so 4 main beliefs: reincarnation, dharma, karma, and moksha. When we talk about their gods, I want you to think of their gods kind of like in Star Wars with the Force. The Force is this big, all-encompassing thing from which everything is born and everything returns to. That's the essence of the Hindu belief. And so we have one supreme essence, God, if you will, called Brahman, from which all creation comes from, and they believe that all creation goes to. They also believe that from Brahman can spring either gods or man. And so 3 of their 10,000 gods, the 3 most important, are Brahma, who is the creator, Vishnu, who is the preserver of life, and Shiva, who is the destroyer of death. So they believe that Brahma is involved in your birth, in the creation, in where your soul ends up as it moves from one body to the next. Vishnu is that God who sustains your life, who keeps you going in life, who preserves you along the way. And Shiva, the destroyer, is the god of death. They don't look at death as a sad thing. They look at death as a doorway to another life. So Shiva is that god. I want you to write this phrase down somewhere on your paper, because if you understand this phrase, you understand Hinduism. If you obey your dharma and have good karma, you'll be reincarnated to achieve moksha. So if you do what your class tells you to do, and you do everything in such a way that there's no sin, there's nothing that anybody can find fault in you, then it's possible for you to be reincarnated and achieve moksha and achieve that release from everything in this life and return back to that force that we all came from. Now, when we ask, how does the caste system influence Hindu society? I want you to think of a cast on your arm. The cast on your arm is there so that your arm doesn't move, so that as the bones heal, they heal in the right position. A caste system is different from a class system, because in a caste system, you don't move. You stay in the class that you are born into. Now, I want you to draw a social pyramid, and I'm going to give you the names that I want you to put in this pyramid, because you don't have to write these Indian names down. So draw the pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, I want you to write priests. It's that little piece in blue. A priest is someone who is helping people to learn more about the gods and what they must do in order to please the gods. The next group under that in yellow are the warriors. These are people who would be police or fire or firemen or soldiers. They're people who protect others in society. Underneath that in the pink, we have the workers, shopkeepers, office workers, bosses. Those are all workers. Underneath that in the light green is the servants. So chauffeurs, people who work in restaurants, cleaning ladies, janitors, those would all be considered part of that servant group. And then at the very bottom, the group that are known as the untouchables, this is a group that all the other castes believe are unclean, because they are touching blood that was from someone or something that was just killed, like a butcher, someone who would carve up a cow, someone who worked with leather, someone who worked with dead people. Those people are considered untouchable, and those people are kind of shunned from society. They're outcasts. Nobody goes near them. It used to be that they couldn't even go to school in India. just recently they've allowed them to go to school. So untouchables are at the very bottom of this society. Now, remember, we said dharma means staying within your caste. So you're not trying to move up or better yourself in the Hindu society during this life. You're hoping that what you do in this life means that when you go through reincarnation, you're going to go up to the next social class level, or you go down if you disobey your dharma or have bad karma. So this caste system is something that the Hindu religion created. Now, Buddhism is a reaction to Hinduism. Many people looked at the Hindu religion and said, it's going to take me thousands of lives to be able to move up that caste system. Can't I get out of that faster? Well, Buddhism is that answer. Now, Buddhism is one of the major religions in the world. It means the awakened one. Its founder is a man named Siddhartha Gautama. Okay, now Siddhartha Gautama was an Indian priest who sought to eliminate suffering. He was pampered all of his life. When he was about 18, he steps outside of the palace for the first time, and he notices that there is suffering. And he wants to try to end the problem of suffering. He tries a lot of different things in order to reach what he calls nirvana. And nirvana to the Buddhist is the same as moksha to the Hindu. It means a release from all of this suffering and all of the pain and going back into this all-encompassing force. When we talk about the sacred literature, Siddhartha didn't write anything. Much like Christ, after he died, it was his followers who began to write down some of his ways and his beliefs. I only want you to write numbers 1 and 2 here for main beliefs. The first main belief is the Four Noble Truths. The second main belief is the Eightfold Path. I'm going to go back here. So you don't have to write down these Four Noble Truths, but I want you to write down that the Four Noble Truths were the main beliefs in Buddhism. And what the Buddha, which is what Siddhartha was called eventually, the Buddha, believed was that life is full of suffering. We can all agree it's kind of universal. Everybody suffers in life. But he tracked it down that he thought that suffering is caused by desire. The things we desire cause us to suffer. If, let's say, one of the guys here at Fort Worth Christian is desperately in love with another girl, but she's desperately in love with someone else, he's suffering because he desires this girl's friendship. So desire, he believes, causes suffering. So he believes that in order to eliminate suffering, you have to eliminate desire. Get rid of all of your desires. And so in order to do this, he came up with this system called the Eightfold Path. And every good Buddhist is going to try to follow this Eightfold Path. Okay, so number 2 is the Eightfold Path. You don't have to write any of this down, but what I want you to know about the Eightfold Path is that it is the Buddhists' map on how to get to nirvana. They have to think in the right way. They have to behave in the right way. And if they can gain all of that wisdom, then they can achieve nirvana or achieve that release from desire and from the pain and the suffering of this world. When we talk about the Buddhist idea about gods, there are no gods in classic Buddhism. They're what we call agnostic. An atheist firmly demands that there are no gods. An agnostic says, well, maybe there are, but they're just not that important to me. And in Buddhism, gods are not important. Now, Siddhartha never claimed to be a god. He didn't teach his people that he was a god or that they could become gods. He just said this is a way to seek release from suffering. Buddhism's effect on society. Buddhism doesn't separate people into classes. Buddhists are trying to be peaceful citizens. They're trying to achieve the Eightfold Path, and they can do that in any different class, any different caste. It doesn't matter. All that Buddhism says is that you could be released from this cycle of reincarnation tomorrow if you were to master this eightfold path. You could do it after a year, after 10 years, after a lifetime, after several lifetimes. It's up to you. But instead of having to live 1,000 lives in order to be released, as is most of the case in Hinduism, Buddhism gives people a faster way out of this cycle of reincarnation. Now, if you look on the last page of these notes, you've got some similarities and some differences between Hinduism and Buddhism. The first similarity is that they both believe in karma. And again, karma means that what you do affects what happens to you in the next life. They both believe in reincarnation, that your soul is eternal, but you die, and then your soul is reborn based on your karma and your dharma. They both believe in dharma, being true to who you were created to be. If you were created to be a warrior, then do everything you can to be the best warrior you could be. If you're born to be a Buddhist, then be the best Buddhist that you can be. They both believe in the immortality of the soul, that the soul starts in a place that's eternal. It goes to this life where you live through several different versions of reincarnation and eventually returns back to the eternal. Also, they agree that life is full of suffering. Now, they disagree on how you can get out, but they agree that life is full of suffering and that there is a way out. And they both agree that the end of suffering is to fade into non-existence. For a Buddhist, they're not trying to get to a heaven where they retain who they are as a person or their personalities. They are trying to get to a place of non-existence, to get back to that place, that life force. Very different from Christianity, very different from how we look at things in the West here. They're looking to cease to exist. That is their goal. There are several differences. One is the release from the cycle of reincarnation is different. Hinduism believes that you can be released after you perfectly go through all of the different steps in the caste system. Buddhism believes that you can be freed from this cycle of reincarnation as soon as you perfect the Eightfold Path. They differ in the existence of gods. Buddhists don't believe in God. Hindus believe in thousands of gods. And while both believe that life is full of suffering, Hindus believe that you must endure the suffering, go through all of the steps in the caste. While Buddhism believes that you can escape it. You can escape it today if you master the Eightfold Path today. Hindus believe that society reflects their religion and that no change should ever be made to the caste system. If you change the caste system, then you're changing the basis of Hinduism. So their society is going to be reinforced through Hindu religion. Buddhism, they want to escape from this world. They'll become monks in monasteries. And mostly it's the lower classes that are attracted to Buddhism because they're the ones who want to escape the fastest. They're the ones who see the hopelessness of trying to be perfect through thousands of lives. Buddhism was founded by one person. Hinduism doesn't have a single founder. Buddhism has no sacred text, while Hinduism has the 4 Vedas. So that takes us through the notes. Again, I expect that you've paused a lot along the way in order to take these notes, but these notes should set you up for the next step, which we're going to do, which is to work on the top hat, which is a form of a chart that helps us to understand similarities and differences. And then we're going to work on the outline together. I hope this made sense. Let me know if it did. I'll see you soon. Bye.